Welcome, Annie Collins here for Pajama Crafter. Today we're going to create this Christmas card. Let's go over the products I use to create this card. I'm using from Pajama Crafter stamps the Sketch Florals Poinsettia stamp. This stamp contains 3 images and 3 sentiments. It has this large floral here with branches and 2 smaller branches with berries. It has the sentiment that reads Poinsettia, Happy Holidays, and Merry Christmas. I'm going to use the large floral and the Merry Christmas for our card today. This stamp is on sale, so be sure to check it out. We're going to be heat embossing, so I have some ink and embossing powder. Let me move everything out of the way real quick. I'm using Strathmore cold press water paper for our image today, and I've already die cut it along with my sentiment strip using dies from my stash. This is for the sentiment, and the image will be placed onto this elongated hexagon. I have some green cardstock, and I have my card base, which is a side folding A2 card base. I'm going to put that there. I have these watercolor sheets that I'm going to use today, and I'm going to use these 2 shades of red here to color the poinsettia. And I'm going to use 2 shades of green to color the rest of my image. So let me flip to the greens. I can get to it right there. The lighter one I'm going to use for the leaves, the darker one for the pine branches. I'm going to use this metallic pen in gold to fill in the little stamen things right here in the middle of my poinsettia. It'll match because of the embossing. And I have some sheer shimmer craft spray in gold that we'll use to make from some splatter. Some watercolor brushes, and I think that's everything. So I'm going to clear my desk so we can get started. We're going to start by doing our embossing first. So I'm going to grab my panel, and I'm going to move everything off for the second. Oh, forgot, I'm going to use some gold gems for our finishing touch. All right, I'm going to do the embossing first. So I'm going to go ahead and grab my anti-static tools here. Now I have 2 kinds. I have a smaller one that I use for smaller images. And this is what I use when I'm going to stamp on a bigger image or bigger image, is a kabuki makeup brush and my anti-static powder I have in a little tin here. And I just shake off the excess on the lid and I can brush it. So it covers a bigger area. I like this for watercoloring bigger things. I know it covers everything perfectly. All right. So I'm going to bring in my stamping platform and I'm going to put the panel onto that. I have a sticky mat in there to help hold the panel. I'm going to still use my magnets just in case. I don't trust myself. So I'm going to go ahead and pull out my image, and I'm going to place the image towards the top of this panel. I'm looking to keep the pine branches, yes, what are they? Pine branches towards the top to that little peak area. And on the bottom, I'm keeping it clear because my sentiment will go across that. So I'm going to adjust it to I get it how I like it. That's looking good there. See, I want to keep it into that peak. I'll put my magnet back down, close my lid, and go ahead and start stamping my image. Now, I'm stamping onto Strathmore cold press watercolor paper, meaning it's textured. So I'm going to stamp this several times to make sure I have a clean, crisp image. And you're thinking to yourself, why are you stamping this in black? Because normally I would stamp with Versamark ink, which is a clear sticky ink, which is made for heat embossing, but I won't be able to see the image. So I won't be able to see if I got it all. And you won't be able to see it on camera either. So using the black allows me to see where I missed those little spots I might have missed, so I can restamp them. And it also allows you to see the image. So I'll go ahead and stamp this, make sure it's all even. I used the press tool to help me get a nice even pressure throughout. It's good. I'm pulling it off the stamp press, and I'm going to place it to the side. I used the Versa clear ink. It takes longer to dry, so I can set my image aside for a moment. I'm going to use the same thing, do the same process for my sentiment. Um, I used the strip that I cut from my sentiment is also from the cold press paper. I wanted to keep the color of the background the same. That's why I used the same paper. Okay, so I'm going to do my sentiment. I'm going to repeat the process of inking it up, stamping it several times to make sure it's nice and on there evenly. I'm also taking a moment here to make sure I am straight on my little strip, and I am not. So I'm going to make adjustments. I don't know about you, but I have a hard time sometimes seeing if anything's straight before it's inked up, like the clear stamps. So I tend to ink it, put my finger to hold the lid of my stamp press so that I can see if it's straight, and then I make adjustments. All right, so I'm going to ink this up again, like I said, one more time, give it a good press. Once it's good, I can pop it up and I can clear everything out so we can start heat embossing. So for heat embossing, I'm going to grab this little scrap paper here and I'm going to put my images on top like so. And then I'm just going to get my embossing powder. This is gold embossing powder. And I'm going to do what we call in the technical terms, dump it. Just going to dump it onto the image. Just dump the powder all the way on top, making sure to cover the entire image. And I'll just dump the rest onto the sentiment. And all you do is shake off any extra. And what I'm looking for is to make sure that all that black ink has been covered with the gold embossing powder. That's it. Just going to keep doing it until I have every little inch of it covered. Shake off any of the excess, and that's why we use the anti-static powder to shake off anything that we don't need or want. I'm going to look for my sentiment that's buried in here. There we go. Again, shake off the excess. Just tap it on the back. Check it. Looks good. Set it to the side. And now return all the embossing powder back into the little container. Put the lid back on before I make a big mess on my desk. A bigger mess because there's a mess already on it. As you can see, there's embossing powder all over it. So let me get that cleaned off. And now I'm trying this, been using this lately. It's my clipboard with some foil on it. And I'm going to hold the images down like this to heat it. It's supposed to heat everything evenly and keep everything from warping. And I want the minimal warping being that we're going to watercolor, which will make the paper warp. So I'm going to go ahead and use my pokey tool as well to help hold things down. And to heat emboss, you just keep moving your heat tool across and you'll know it's working when it goes from dull to shiny. I love that part of heat embossing when it goes from that dull to shiny. I don't know about you guys, but I do. So I'm going to go ahead and do that to both the sentiment and the image. Go over it several times. And then I will turn off my tool for a second, check to make sure everything is done. See, I'll check my sentiment first. If it's good, I'll set it to the side to cool off. I check my image and I can tell right there, a few of the tips of the branches here are not heat set. So I'm going to go ahead and hit it one more time. You must always want to keep your tool moving so you don't want to scorch anything. Looks like it's all good. Now I can go ahead and put this to the side to cool off. It's all even, looks good. I'm going to bring in a silicone mat now that everything's cooled off to hold my image while I watercolor on it. So I'm going to bring in a plastic mat, paper towel, my paintbrushes, the watercolor sheets so that we can get started on watercoloring. I'm going to start with the poinsettia. Like I said, I'm going to use those two shades of red. One's a little bit lighter than the other to blend them for my petals. So I'm squeezing the water through the brush to make sure that the little brush is wet all the way through to pick up the color. And I'm going to start coloring in the petals. I'm doing right now the technique that's called dry watercoloring. I know that sounds weird, but it means that I'm going directly to the paper. I'm not putting any water down first. I'm just going to color in the image with the liquid, with the color. So for a wet technique, what you do is you fill in the area first with water and then you put in the color. So I'll show you here, I'll demonstrate demonstrate that for you. What I like about heat embossing to watercolor is that you keep everything contained. The heat embossing keeps everything from flowing out everywhere. So I'm going to continue coloring the petals until I have them all filled in. So I'm going to grab now the darker red here, and I'm going to mix that in to fill in some of the, first I start with the darker straightforward, and then I'll mix the two colors together. I want to fill in the darker color towards the back end petals. And here's how I show you the wet technique. It's kind of hard to see because my water is kind of the same color. But you color in the area with the water, and then you drop in the color. Let me show you one real quick. And it comes out a little bit lighter. It helps with bigger areas. So here, you color in the area with just plain water. This is the wet technique, or wet on wet. And then you just drop in the color and just let the colors mingle on that wet area. I love it for like bigger areas or bigger surfaces, but for this small little section or small little image part of the petals is not really, what I want. So I'm just going to go ahead and color it in, continuing with the dry technique, just straight onto the pigment, straight onto the area. So I'm going to continue until I finish all my petals. Really quickly here. We're almost done with the poinsettia, and then we'll move on to the leaves and branches. And I have a water brush, meaning that there's water in the handle here, and it's just mixing it and making it keep everything flowing for me. Normally I use my watercolor brushes, no water in the handles, but I figured just use this for today. All right, so I'm almost done with my last one here, and then I'll go through and touch up any little areas that I may have missed, because I'm trying to make sure to stay within everything. And I see a few little spots that didn't get the color. I'm just going to go through one more time, fill in any little spots before I move on to the next color. Almost done. There we go. I think that's it. There we go. We're all done. Now I'm going to clean my brush thoroughly, squeezing water through the handle and clean it through the pot as well. I'm showing you there that I'm going to use the greens that I mentioned earlier. So to clean this kind of brush, you squeeze the handle to get the water out, wipe it on your paper towel. You could also use a little extra water, which I did to make sure I got all that red out, because I don't want red leaves. I want just the petals from the flower to be red. Now I'm going to pick up the lighter green the same way I did for the red, like the two colors. Just dip it into that sheet, pick up the color, and I can start coloring my leaves. And I'm going to fill in the leaf completely. Now I'll go in and drop a touch of the darker on the leaves to create a shadow, but not very much. I want to keep them those bright colors, that brighter green. So here I'm going to touch a little bit of the darker green, just a tiny bit, just here underneath the petals of the poinsettia, just to create a little bit of shadow on my leaves. There we go. And it's mixing nicely because that's still wet. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and start coloring the pine branches. And the pine branches have like a little stem in the center, and then they spread out. So you want to make sure you fill them all the way in. So that's why I'm rubbing kind of haphazardly to make sure I fill in all that area. There. And then I do all of them all the way around, going in. And there is also tiny little berries throughout. I know it's hard to tell because I'm not zoomed in real close, but I will color those in a few minutes. But I want to make sure to avoid them because I don't want my berries to be green. I want them to be red, which I'll show you here in a sec. Picking up more of that color, filling them in. We're almost done with our branches. Then I'll go through to make sure I have all the area filled in. Catch any little areas that I might have missed. Those are set. I clean my brush the same way. And I'm going to find the red I want for the berries. I'm going to go like this maroony red right here for my berries because I want them to be different than the petals of the poinsettia. So I'm going to just fill those in by doing little dots, putting them all in. There we go. And gonna get all those. Now you have to be careful. I don't know if you can see it there. Um, on the ones that are on the branches, because there's little berries that are on the branches, and I don't want to get any green in the berries. So I'm trying to be as careful as possible. Get them all in. And it's easier for me to hold it sort of like up like this so I can see where I might, on the branches better, because I don't want to miss any. So I'm going to finish coloring this out, and we have a few more to go. I'm liking the darker red here with the berries because they're going to pop nicely. And everything dries back just a bit. So it looks kind of bright now, but it does dry back a bit. Got a few more right here. We're almost done. And my camera shut off and I didn't realize it. So what you missed was I put the splatter on the green cardstock and onto our floral panel. I adhered the green cardstock to the card base, and now we're going to adhere our floral panel onto our card. And that's all you missed. I'm so sorry about that. So here we go. This happens when your battery dies. Luckily, I had a backup. All right, so here we go. We're going to get that all centered, make any adjustments. There. And now I'm going to put my sentiment, which I've popped up on foam adhesive. I'm going to place that, like I mentioned, across the bottom. Once that's set, I'm going to grab my metallic pen and I'm going to fill in the little stamen in. Also, I forgot to mention that I did put a little yellow watercolor in the center of that. All right, so I'm going to add my gems. I'm going to put a little adhesive dots here, not dots, liquid glue dots, so that I know where my gems are going to go. Yes, these are adhesive back gems, but I like putting extra adhesive to make sure they stay on. I'm going to put a few around my image and then some onto the green area and below my sentiment. So we have one there, one above my sentiment there, and one below it. Clean off any excess, and now our card is done. I love the embossing here and the watercoloring, so pretty. Again, the splatter is optional. You don't have to do that. All right, so let's go over the products I used to create this card. I used the gold gems, of course, the watercolor sheets, and most importantly, the sketched Florals Poinsettia stamp, which I've heat embossed using some gold heat embossing to do our image. I'm going to move this over real quick. This stamp set, like I mentioned, is on sale. Hopefully it's still there when you get to see this video. I will have the link for the stamp set in the description below, as well as a list of all the supplies I used. Again, I used the Sure Shimmer Spray for splatter. Optional. You don't have to. That's not your thing. I do like that. I'm going to have everything, like I said, listed for you in the description box. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them before me. Thank you for being here. I'm going to give you another look at our card. Thank you for being here, and I hope you found some inspiration.